Weather and time have eroded sandstone cliffs in southern Utah and given way to Bryce Canyon National Park. It's a beautiful destination to visit outside the summers, and we have the perfect 2-day itinerary for you. If you have only one day in Bryce, the first day will cover the highlights for you. So, there are a bunch of opinions on the best sunrise and sunset spots in the park. For sunrise, you should either choose Sunset Point or Bryce Point. We recommend Bryce Point because it has a view of the entire Bryce Amphitheater, home to the greatest concentration of irregular spires called hoodoos on the earth. And they slowly light up as the sun rises above the horizon. But if you would like to be closer to the hoodoos, Sunset Point is also a great option. After sunrise, we hiked the Navajo Loop combined with the Queen's Garden Trail. We recommend you hike this anti-clockwise, unless you're looking for a challenge, but you can do the Navajo Loop first while the sun is lower in the sky. The hike begins with a view of the most iconic hoodoo in Bryce Canyon, Thor's Hammer, and continues on to the famous switchbacks that wind between the narrow walls of colorful limestone. The views change often as you go forward, and there are tons of photo opportunities. This is a great introduction to Bryce Canyon. We would call this hike moderate. Even when going counterclockwise, it's a bit steep at the end and it feels harder because of the high elevation. For a well-deserved lunch, we headed to the town of Tropic. Pizza Place was an absolute delight. We would even call it the best place to eat in Bryce. Started strong with cheesy garlic bread and local beer, and a half-and-half veggie and supreme pizza just made it better. Before heading back to the park, we stopped at Mossy Cave.
So this is the overflow parking, and this route goes to the trail.
There are 2 spots on this hike, the cave and a waterfall. The cave isn't much in the summer, but the highlight is the waterfall on the other end. This is a low effort and high reward hike, and you can spend hours over here. People had brought swimwear and were enjoying the water. For sunset, we were hoping to do 2 locations. There is only one spot in Bryce Canyon where the sunset light hits the hoodoos. That's Paria viewpoint. But we got distracted by a herd of elk. We didn't make it to Paria viewpoint in time, but we'd still highly recommend it. We instead headed to the second location, Inspiration Point, the most breathtaking spot in Bryce. Sunset in Bryce is a bit of a losing fight since the sun sets on the opposite side of the amphitheater. From here, you get a different perspective of the amphitheater and it looks grand. This was our favorite viewpoint in the park and a great end to our day. We started the day with sunrise at Fairyland Point. Our plan was to hike the Fairyland loop during the first half of the day. We started right after sunrise and saw the hoodoos getting lit up close. This is an 8-mile hike, and we knew that we had to do this hike counterclockwise to avoid the crazy ascent at the end. But our morning coffee hadn't hit us yet, and we miscalculated counterclockwise and ended up going clockwise instead. This is a hard hike and very highly rated, but compared to Navajo, the views don't change that dramatically. It's also pretty exposed for the most part, so make sure to carry sunscreen, a hat, and enough water. This one's for the lovers of the desert and those looking to challenge themselves and get away from the crowds. If you're looking for a shorter hike with rewarding views, we would recommend trying the Peekaboo Trail instead. For lunch, we headed back to Tropic to try IDK barbecue. We tried their pulled pork sandwich, which was really soft, but could have used a little bit more flavor. We would still recommend trying this place over some of the other options though. We also tried the Bryce Canyon Coffee Co., where we got a coffee and a smoothie. I'm not a big smoothie person usually, but their 4-berry smoothie was really good. Next, we headed to the visitor center to collect our reward for the Hike the Hoodoos challenge. There were a lot of interesting things to learn there, and we spent a little bit of time getting souvenirs. Our last activity was driving down the scenic road. This drive can take up to 3 hours, so make sure you allot enough time for this. It runs the length of the park, and you get to see some iconic parts of the park without any hype. The highlight for us was Natural Bridge. For our last sunset in Bryce, we headed to Sunrise Point. This is a popular spot for sunset, and the naming can be a bit confusing. As the sun moves down the horizon, you can see the light leaving the hoodoos. A beautiful sunset happened behind us, and in front of us, the blue hour intensified the color of the rock formations. Now let's talk about accommodation. There are 2 broad areas to stay. You can stay close to the park in Bryce Canyon City, or even within the park at the lodge in Bryce Canyon. There are 2 big Best Western hotels in Bryce Canyon City, which have restaurants and a general store that is open pretty late, and that can be very handy. The restaurants are relatively expensive though, and not that good. Your other option is to stay 20 minutes away in the town of Tropic. Tropic was cheaper for accommodation and had better food. We stayed at the cottages at Bryce Canyon and had a comfortable stay. This marks the end of our time in Bryce. If you found the video useful, please like and subscribe. Over 90% of the people watching our videos are not subscribed. You hitting that subscribe button will help us bring you more quality videos. And let us know in the comments which locations you would like us to visit next.